Alright, in 913, it shows us two histograms. One is the distribution of individual phone calls, the length of an individual phone call, and one is the distribution of an average of 10 phone calls. Okay, so one represents the population and one represents the sampling distribution. We need to figure out which one is which. If we look carefully, we can see the distribution of one has quite a larger spread and the other one is a little bit smaller. So that's going to be our first clue. And from that we can say that the one with smaller spread is the distribution for the sampling distribution. Okay. Again, the concept, the idea here is that we looked at all the phone calls that an individual made, and then we are selecting, that's the distribution of the population. And what the sampling distribution is that we're going to randomly select 10 of those phone calls that the person made, and we're going to take the average length of the phone call there. If we look at this distribution, this is our sampling distribution. Okay, we see that it goes from about 1 to 4 minutes ish. Okay. On the other hand, we can see there is a block at 12 and a block at around 19. Okay, that makes sense for an individual to have a single phone call that lasted 12 minutes. If this were to be the sampling distribution, that would mean that the average of 10 phone calls was 12 minutes. That would be impossible for that to happen if this was the length of the individual phone calls. So here, if the length of the individual phone calls go from 0 to 4 minutes, it would be impossible to select 10 phone calls and then get an average of 12 minutes. On the other hand, if this were the population, we could select 10 phone calls, and maybe the 12-minute phone call or the 19-minute phone call shows up in there, but when we average it with 9 other phone calls, the average becomes a lot shorter. And so this represents the population, or the distribution of individual phone calls, whereas this over here represents the distribution of the sample average. So this is the sampling distribution. This is the distribution of X bars taken by selecting 10 random phone calls and finding the average.